The dark psychology of people who always stay silent. There's a person in your life who never says much. Maybe they sit in meetings and just observe. Maybe they're at family dinners, nodding, smiling faintly, but rarely contributing. Maybe you think they're shy, thoughtful, maybe even wise. But here's what most people don't understand. Silence isn't always peace. Sometimes, it's the loudest form of control a person can have. Because while everyone else is revealing themselves, exposing their thoughts, their weaknesses, their desires, the silent person is doing something far more dangerous. They're watching, collecting, calculating. And the question you should be asking isn't why they stay silent. It's what they're protecting themselves from. His name was Marcus. To his colleagues, he was the quiet one, the guy who listened more than he spoke, the one who never caused drama, never argued, never imposed his opinion unless directly asked. And even then, his answers were measured, careful, safe. People liked Marcus, or rather, they felt comfortable around him. Because Marcus never challenged anyone, he never made waves. He blended into the background like ambient noise present, but never demanding attention. Some thought he was humble. Others assumed he was just introverted. But Marcus wasn't humble. And he wasn't simply introverted. Marcus had learned something a long time ago, something that had shaped the architecture of his entire personality. He learned that words could be weapons. And the less you gave people, the less they could use against you. So he became a vault, a fortress, a man behind walls so high that even he had forgotten what it felt like to be seen. It was a Tuesday morning when it happened. Marcus sat in the conference room, watching his colleague Sarah present an idea she'd been working on for months. It was brilliant, creative, bold. But Marcus knew something she didn't. He'd overheard a conversation the week before. The senior director had already decided to go in a completely different direction. Sarah's proposal didn't stand a chance, and presenting it now, in front of the entire leadership team, was going to make her look out of touch, unprepared. She was walking into a slaughter. Marcus watched her speak, watched the directors exchange glances, watched the slow, creeping realization on her face that the room wasn't with her. He could have said something. He could have pulled her aside before the meeting. He could have warned her. But he didn't. Because that wasn't what Marcus did. He stayed silent. And as the meeting ended, and Sarah left the room humiliated, Marcus felt something unsettling twist in his chest. Not guilt. Relief. Because once again he had stayed safe, uninvolved, unattached. Once again, his silence had protected him from being associated with failure. But it had also made him complicit in someone else's pain. Here's what most people misunderstand about chronic silence. It's not always about shyness. It's not always about lacking something to say. Sometimes, silence is a survival strategy. Marcus learned early, probably in childhood, that expressing himself came with consequences. Maybe he was dismissed. Maybe he was punished for speaking up. Maybe his emotions were used against him. So his brain developed a solution. Don't give them anything. This is called emotional withholding. And it works. For a while. By staying silent, you avoid conflict. You avoid being wrong. You avoid being judged. You float through life as a witness rather than a participant. But here's the trap. The more you withdraw, the more your identity becomes tied to that withdrawal. You start to believe that silence is who you are, that observing is safer than engaging, that invisibility is strength. And slowly, without realizing it, your silence stops being a shield. It becomes a cage. Because you've trained yourself so well to hide that you've forgotten how to be seen. You've practiced not needing people so much that you've lost the ability to connect with them. And the worst part? You start to believe you're better than them, smarter, more controlled. After all, they're the ones exposing themselves, making fools of themselves, risking failure. Not you. You're safe. But you're also disappearing. Silence has a shadow side that most people never talk about. It can become a form of violence. Not the loud, obvious kind, but the quiet, suffocating kind. Marcus didn't just use silence to protect himself. He used it to punish others. When his girlfriend wanted to talk about their relationship, he would go quiet, shut down, let the silence fill the room until she felt crazy for even bringing it up. When his brother asked for advice, Marcus would offer nothing. No judgment, no support, just neutral observation. He told himself he was being wise, non-reactive, detached. But really, he was withholding the one thing people needed from him, his presence. And withholding presence is one of the cruelest things you can do to someone. Because silence doesn't just protect you. It isolates everyone around you. It makes people feel unheard, unimportant, unseen. And over time, they stop reaching out. They stop asking. They stop expecting anything from you. Which is exactly what Marcus wanted. Until one day, it wasn't. The realization didn't come all at once. It came in fragments. A birthday dinner where no one asked his opinion. A family crisis where no one called him for support. A work celebration where he realized no one actually knew him. They knew of him, they worked with him, but they didn't know what he feared, what he dreamed of, what kept him awake at night. And that's when the truth hit him like cold water. His silence wasn't strength. It was fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of being rejected. Fear of being vulnerable. He had spent so many years convincing himself that staying quiet made him superior, more disciplined, more thoughtful, more in control. But really, he was terrified. Terrified that if he spoke, people would see him, the real him, the flawed, uncertain, imperfect version he kept locked away. So he hid behind silence and called it wisdom. He avoided connection and called it independence. He watched life happen to other people and told himself he was the smart one for not participating. But he wasn't living. He was spectating. And the cost of that was everything. It was late on a Thursday when Marcus got the call. His younger sister Emma. She sounded off, distant. She told him she was fine, that she just wanted to hear his voice. Marcus, as always, said very little, asked surface-level questions, gave short answers. And then she said something that stopped him cold. "You know, Marcus, I don't think you've ever actually told me what you think of me." Silence. "I don't know if you're proud of me, or disappointed, or anything. You just watch, and I don't know if I matter to you." Something cracked inside him. For the first time in years, Marcus felt the weight of all the words he'd never said. All the times he stayed silent when silence wasn't safe, it was cruel. And he realized, if he didn't speak now, he might lose her. Not physically, but emotionally. He would stop trying, stop reaching out, and he would become exactly what he'd been training himself to be. Alone. So he did something terrifying. He spoke. Not perfectly, not eloquently, but honestly. He told her he was proud of her, that he was sorry for being distant, that his silence wasn't indifference, it was fear. Fear that if he let her in, she'd see how lost he actually was. And for the first time in years, he let someone see him. Here's the thing about silence. It feels like armor. But it's really a prison. Because every time you choose not to speak, not to share, not to be vulnerable, not to risk being wrong, you're choosing safety over connection. And connection is the only thing that makes us human. You can go through life as an observer, collecting information, staying neutral, never taking a side. But observation isn't living. And silence, when used as a shield, eventually becomes a weapon against yourself. Because the things you don't say don't just disappear. They build up, they isolate you, they shape the person you become. And one day you wake up and realize, people don't know you. Not because they didn't try, but because you never let them. The most dangerous prison is the one you build in your own mind. And the quietest people are often the ones screaming the loudest on the inside. If this made you question the cost of your own silence, subscribe, because the most terrifying thing you'll ever confront isn't the world around you. It's the version of yourself you've been hiding from everyone else.